The massive alien ship floated silently through space like a metal predator. Its dark hull stretched for miles, covered in sharp spikes and glowing red lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Inside the ship's luxury hunting deck, Commander Vexthara relaxed in his golden throne, his 7-foot-tall body covered in green scales that sparkled like broken glass. His yellow eyes studied the viewing screens with cruel satisfaction. "The new specimens are perfect," he hissed to his second-in-command. Lieutenant Krex? Both aliens looked like giant lizards that had learned to walk on 2 legs. Their claws clicked against the metal floor as they moved, and their forked tongues tasted the air for fear. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled 3 star systems for over 1,000 years. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved hundreds of species, but ruling wasn't enough anymore. The wealthy nobles needed entertainment, and hunting had become their favorite sport. They had hunted the cat-like Fellerus until none remained. They had chased the bird people of Arrows through their crystal forests until extinction claimed them. Now they had found a new species to torment. Humans. Lieutenant Krex pulled up holographic displays showing the captured prey. 24 specimens from the mining colony on Kepler 442b, the usual mix of males, females, and offspring. They should provide several days of entertainment before we kill them all. Vexthara's mouth curved into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Excellent. These mammals look particularly pathetic. No claws, no scales, no natural weapons. They won't last long on Kethmar." The forest moon of Kethmar was the perfect hunting ground. The Zephyrians had spent decades building the ultimate killing field. Dense forests provided cover for prey to hide, while rocky cliffs offered vantage points for hunters. Swamps full of poisonous plants would slow down the desperate animals, and hidden sensors would track their every movement. No creature had ever escaped from Kethmar alive. Deep in the ship's cargo hold, the humans huddled together in the cold metal chamber. The walls were smooth and featureless, with no windows or doors they could see. Strange alien writing glowed on the ceiling, and the air smelled of metal and ozone. They had been here for 3 days since the attack on their colony, and fear had settled into their bones like winter cold. Jake Morrison sat with his back against the wall, his wife Lisa pressed against his side. Their 12-year-old son Danny was curled up in his mother's lap, trying to be brave but failing. Jake had been a Marine before becoming a miner, and his soldier's mind was already working on escape plans. But escape from what? He didn't even know where they were. "We're on a ship," he whispered to the group. "I can feel the vibrations through the floor. We're moving, but I don't know where." Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked up from examining the bruises on an older woman's arms. She was the colony's only doctor, a small woman with kind eyes and steady hands. "The gravity feels different, too. Lighter than Earth normal, but heavier than the colony. We're definitely not on a planet." Paul Williams, the colony's chief engineer, ran his hands along the walls, searching for any weakness. He was a big man with rough hands and a practical mind. "This metal isn't from Earth. Look at the way it's joined. No welds, no bolts. It's like they grew it in one piece." Amanda Clark, the colony's teacher, was keeping the other children calm with quiet stories. She was young and scared, but her training had taught her to stay focused when children needed her. "Whatever's happening, we need to stay together. Children do better when adults stay calm." The human prisoners had no idea they were being watched. Hidden cameras recorded their every word and gesture. The Zephyrians studied how humans moved, how they spoke, how they comforted each other. They wanted to understand their prey before the hunt began. "Interesting," Lieutenant Krex noted, watching the displays. "They form protective groups around their young. Most species scatter when captured, but these creatures stick together." Commander Vexthara waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Herd behavior, common in prey animals. It will make them easier to track when we release them." The alien hunters had spent months studying human biology. They knew humans were weaker than Zephyrians, slower than most species, and had no natural weapons. Human bones were fragile, their skin was soft, and their muscles were pathetically small. The research showed they were perfect victims, helpless prey that would provide hours of entertainment before dying. But there were things the Zephyrians had missed in their research. They had studied human bodies, but not human minds. They had learned about human weakness, but not human strength. They had no idea what humans could do when pushed to the edge of survival. The ship's intercom crackled to life, and a mechanical voice spoke in harsh alien language. The humans couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clear enough. Cold, cruel, hungry. "Attention, passengers," the voice said in accented English. "We will arrive at our destination in 6 hours. Prepare for disembarkation." Jake Morrison felt his wife's hand tighten in his. Danny looked up at his father with trust that broke Jake's heart. Around them, the other prisoners looked to him for answers he didn't have. "What do they want with us?" whispered Mrs. Betty Harris. An elderly woman who had run the colony's store. Jake met her eyes steadily. "I don't know. But whatever it is, we're going to face it together. We're going to survive this." Dr. Rodriguez moved quietly through the group, checking on everyone's health. She found cuts and bruises from the capture, but nothing serious. "We need to stay strong," she told them. "Whatever happens next, we'll need all our strength." Paul Williams had found something interesting in the wall. A small panel that felt different from the rest. He pressed it carefully, and a section of the wall became transparent. Through it they could see space and stars, but also something else. A small green moon covered in forests. "That's where they're taking us," he said quietly. That moon down. There, Amanda Clark gathered the children closer. "It looks like a forest. That's good. Forests have food and water and places to hide." The adults exchanged glances over the children's heads. They all knew forests could be dangerous too. But they said nothing that might frighten the young ones. Commander Vex Thara entered the observation deck to watch the moon grow larger as they approached. Kethmer was his masterpiece, a hunting preserve designed to provide the ultimate challenge. The moon's gravity was slightly lighter than most worlds, which would help weak prey animals move faster. The forests were thick enough to provide hiding places, but not so thick that hunters couldn't track their prey. "Release the atmospheric analysis to the specimens," he ordered. "Let them know they can breathe the air. We want them to run, not suffocate," the mechanical voice spoke again. "The atmosphere on your destination is safe for human life. You will be able to breathe normally." Jake Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Why would their captors care if they could breathe? Unless they wanted them alive for something. Something that required them to run. "Listen to me," he said quietly to the group. "When we get to wherever we're going, stay together. Don't run. Off alone, watch out for each other. And remember, we're not just victims. We're human beings, and human beings don't give up." The ship shuddered as it entered the moon's atmosphere. Through the transparent panel, they could see forests rushing past below. It might have been beautiful under other circumstances. Now it looked like a green prison waiting to swallow them. In the hunting deck above, the Zephyrians were putting on their armor and checking their weapons. Energy rifles that could burn through steel. Tracking devices that could follow a target. For miles, personal shields that could stop bullets. They were ready for their favorite sport. They had no idea they were about to learn the most important lesson in the galaxy. Some prey bites back, and some prey never stops fighting. The transport ship's cargo doors opened with a hiss of escaping air. Bright sunlight flooded the dark chamber where the humans had been held for days. Jake Morrison squinted against the glare, his hand instinctively moving to shield his son Danny's eyes. The air that rushed in was warm and humid, carrying the scent of growing things and rich earth. "Move out, specimens," a mechanical voice commanded. "You have 2 hours before the hunt begins." The humans stumbled out onto a metal platform that had been lowered from the ship. Below them stretched an endless green forest, thick with trees, that towered hundreds of feet into the sky. Vines hung like curtains between the massive trunks, and the sound of running water echoed from somewhere in the distance. It would have been beautiful if they weren't about to die here. Jake Morrison counted heads as everyone gathered on the platform. 24 people had been taken from the colony. All 24 were still alive, though some showed signs of the rough treatment they had received. Mrs. Betty Harris was limping from a twisted ankle. Young Tim Parker, only 8 years old, was crying quietly for his mother who had been killed in the attack. "Listen up, everyone," Jake said, his voice carrying the authority of his old military training. "We're not just running around hoping for the best, we're going to survive this. All of us. Double quotes. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was already moving among the group, checking on injuries and health. "The gravity is lighter here," she said. "About 80% of Earth normal. That means we can move faster and jump higher, but we'll tire more quickly at first." Paul Williams was studying the forest with an engineer's eye. "Those trees are huge. The root systems must be massive. That means stable ground near the big ones, but watch out for soft spots between them." Amanda Clark had the children gathered around her. "We're going to play a game," she told them in a calm voice. "We're going to see who can stay the quietest while we walk through the forest. The quieter we are, the better we do." The transport ship lifted off, leaving them alone on the platform. But they weren't truly alone. Hidden in the trees around them, sensors tracked their every movement. Cameras recorded their actions. The Zephyrians wanted to study their prey before the killing began. 2 hours, Jake said. "That's our head start. We need to use every minute." He led them down from the platform and into the forest. The ground was soft under their feet, covered in thick layers of fallen leaves and moss. The trees were so massive that 4 people holding hands couldn't wrap their arms around the smallest trunk. Overhead, the canopy was so thick that only scattered beams of sunlight reached the forest floor. "Stay close," Jake ordered. "But not too close. If something happens to one group, the others keep moving." Dr. Rodriguez fell into step beside him. "Jake, what do you think they want with us?" Jake's face was grim. "I think they want to hunt us like animals." The words sent a chill through the group, but no one panicked. These were colonists, people who had chosen to leave Earth and build new lives on a dangerous frontier world. They knew how to face fear. "And keep moving." Paul Williams was examining everything they passed. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a tree trunk. "See these marks? Something with claws has been here, big claws." Jake studied the gouges in the bark. They were deep and wide, made by something much larger than a human. "Predators," he said. "The aliens aren't just hunting us. They're letting this place hunt us too." Amanda Clark kept the children calm with quiet games and stories, but her eyes were constantly scanning the forest around them. She had grown up on a farm and knew how to read the signs of danger in the wild. "The birds aren't singing," she whispered to Jake. "That's not normal for a healthy forest." They had been walking for an hour when they found the first sign of previous hunts. Clearing filled with white bones, picked clean by scavengers. The bones were from dozens of different species, but they were all the same size, person-sized. "Don't let the children see this," Jake said quietly, but 8-year-old Tim Parker had already spotted the bones. Instead of screaming or crying, he tugged on Jake's sleeve. "Mr. Jake, those bones are old. Real old. See how they're white and cracked? That means this happened a long time ago." Jake looked down at the boy in surprise. Tim was right. The bones were ancient, weathered by years of rain and sun. "You're a smart kid, Tim. What else do you see?" Tim studied the clearing with the serious expression of a child trying to be helpful. "They're all mixed up. Like the animals that died here were all different shapes and sizes. But they're all about as big as people." Dr. Rodriguez knelt beside the boy. "Tim, that's very good observation. You're helping us understand what we're dealing with." The realization hit them all at once. The aliens had been doing this for years, maybe decades. They had hunted intelligent beings from dozens of worlds, bringing them here to die for entertainment. The humans were just the latest in a long line of victims. "We're not the first," Paul Williams said grimly, "but we're going to be the last." Jake. Morrison felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. It wasn't fear, it was anger. These creatures had turned murder into entertainment, and they thought humans would be easy victims. They were about to learn otherwise. "Change of plans," Jake said. We're not just running anymore, we're going to fight back. The group had been walking for 90 minutes when they heard the first sounds of pursuit, a low humming noise that grew louder as it approached. Through the trees they could see flashes of light moving between the massive trunks. "They're coming," Amanda Clark whispered, pulling the children closer. Jake Morrison split the group quickly. "Elena, take the wounded and find a hiding place. Paul, you're with me. Amanda, keep the children safe and quiet. If we don't come back, keep moving toward the sound of water." The first Zephyrian hunter appeared between the trees like a green nightmare. 7 feet tall and covered in scales that seemed to shift color with the light, it moved with the fluid grace of a predator. Energy weapons gleamed in its clawed hands, and its yellow eyes scanned the forest with cruel intelligence. The alien had expected to find cowering prey. Instead, it found Jake Morrison waiting behind a tree with a heavy rock in each hand. The Marine had fought in 3 wars before becoming a miner, and he remembered every lesson about close combat. The Zephyrian raised its energy rifle, but Jake was already moving. He threw the first rock with deadly accuracy, hitting the alien's weapon hand. The rifle went flying, clattering against a tree trunk. The second rock caught the hunter in the head, staggering it backward. Jake didn't give the alien time to recover. He grabbed a fallen branch as thick as his arm and swung it like a club. The Zephyrian's scales were tough, but the branch found the joints in its armor. The alien went down hard, its breathing labored. Paul Williams emerged from behind another tree, carrying a sharp stone he had found. "Is it dead?" Jake checked the alien's pulse. "Still alive, but unconscious? Not yet. But it won't be hunting anyone for a while." They quickly searched the fallen hunter. The energy rifle was too complex to understand, but the alien's armor had weak points they could exploit. More importantly, it carried a communication device that was crackling with alien voices. "They're coordinating," Paul said. "This isn't just random hunting, they're working together." Jake pocketed the communicator. "Then we'll coordinate too. But first, we need to get back to the others." They found Dr. Rodriguez and the children hidden in a hollow between 2 massive tree roots. Amanda Clark had found edible berries and a small stream of clean water. The wounded were resting, and the children were staying quiet just as they had been told. "We got one," Jake announced, "and we learned something important. They're not invincible." Dr. Rodriguez looked up from treating Mrs. Harris's ankle. "What do you mean?" "They're stronger than us and they have better weapons," Jake explained. "But they're not smarter. They expected us to run in panic. They didn't expect us to fight back." Paul Williams was already working on the alien technology they had captured. "This communication device is picking up their radio chatter?" "I can't understand the language, but I can track the signal sources. There are at least 6 more hunters out there." 6 against 24, Jake said. "Those are good odds if we're smart about it." Amanda Clark spoke up from where she was keeping watch. "The children have been listening to the forest. They say the animals are starting to return. That means the immediate danger is moving away." Jake nodded. "We're going to split into smaller groups. Harder to track, easier to hide. But we stay in contact and we watch out for each other." The humans had been on the forest moon for less than 4 hours, but they were already adapting. The teachers were teaching survival skills. The doctor was treating injuries with forest plants. The engineer was figuring out alien technology. The children were becoming scouts and messengers. Up in their observation ship, the Zephyrians were watching with growing concern. Their first hunter had gone silent. The human prey was not behaving according to their research. Instead of running in terror, they were organizing. Instead of panicking, they were planning. Commander Vexthara studied the displays with narrowed eyes. "Send in 2 more hunters. These mammals are more resilient than expected." Lieutenant Krex hesitated. "Sir, perhaps we should consider increasing the hunting party size. These creatures seem to be adapting quickly." 3 days had passed since the hunt began, and the forest moon had become a battlefield. The humans had not only survived, but had started to change the rules of the game. What began as a simple hunting expedition had turned into something the Zephyrians had never experienced before. Jake Morrison crouched behind a fallen log, watching two alien hunters move through the trees below. His clothes were torn and dirty, his face marked with cuts from thorns and branches, but his eyes were sharp and focused. In his hands he held a spear made from a straight branch and the blade from a fallen hunter's weapon. He was no longer running. He was hunting. The transformation had begun on the second day. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had made the first breakthrough while treating wounded colonists with forest plants. She had noticed that certain berries made the children sleepy, while others gave them energy. When she tested the plants on tissue samples from the first dead alien, she discovered something remarkable. "The purple flowers are poisonous to them," she had whispered to Jake as they huddled around a small fire. "Not deadly, but it makes them sick, weak. Their scales turn gray and they move slowly." Paul Williams had been busy with his own discoveries. The alien technology was advanced, but it followed logical patterns. He had figured out how to turn their communication devices into tracking systems. More importantly, he had learned to jam their signals. "They can't talk to each other when I do this," he explained, showing Jake a modified alien device. "And they can't call for help from their ship." Amanda Clark had turned the children into the most effective part of their operation. Kids could move quietly through the forest, climb trees the adults couldn't reach, and hide in spaces too small for grown-ups. She had taught them to be the eyes and ears of their group. "Danny saw 3 hunters moving toward the river," she reported. Tim counted their weapons. Lisa heard them talking about something called backup units. The children had also learned to mimic alien sounds. 12-year-old Danny Morrison had a gift for languages, and he had been listening to the alien radio chatter for days. He couldn't understand all the words, but he could copy the sounds well enough to confuse the hunters. "I can make them think there are more aliens than there really are," Danny told his father proudly. "I can make them go the wrong way." Jake Morrison felt a mixture of pride and sadness as he watched his son adapt to this nightmare. The boy was growing up fast, learning skills no child should need to know. But Danny was alive, and that was what mattered. The real change had come when the humans stopped running and started setting traps. Paul Williams had engineered simple but effective devices using alien technology and forest materials. Pits covered with leaves and lined with sharp stakes. Tripwires connected to heavy logs that would swing down from the trees. Snares made from alien rope that would catch a hunter's feet. Dr. Rodriguez had created weapons from her medical knowledge and forest chemistry. She mixed plant juices that would burn alien skin, powders that would blind them, and gases that would make them sick. Her medical bag had become an arsenal of chemical warfare. "We're not just defending ourselves anymore," Jake realized as he watched another alien hunter stumble into one of their traps. "We're winning." The Zephyrians had never encountered anything like this. Their research had told them that humans were weak, slow, and helpless. But the creatures they were hunting now were none of those things. They were organized, intelligent, and absolutely ruthless. Commander Vexthara had lost 4 hunters in 3 days. 4 of his best warriors, killed by prey animals that should have been easy victims. The reports from his surviving hunters were disturbing. The humans were using tactics he had never seen before. "They fight like soldiers," reported Hunter Klex, his voice shaking with fear. "But they use the forest itself as a weapon. They know where we will step before we step there. They attack from directions we cannot see." Lieutenant Krex studied the battle reports with growing alarm. "So the humans are not behaving like any prey species we have encountered. They are adapting to our tactics faster than we can change them." Vexthara's claws scraped against his. "Command chair, they are animals." Animals do not learn this quickly, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. The humans had learned to use alien weapons. They had figured out alien technology. They had turned the hunting preserve into a trap. For the hunters themselves, in the forest, Jake Morrison was teaching the other colonists lessons he had learned in 3 wars. How to move without sound. How to strike without warning. How to kill without mercy. "We're not soldiers," said Bill Roberts, a middle-aged accountant who had never heard anyone in his life. We're just ordinary people. Ordinary people who refuse to die, Jake replied. That makes us more dangerous than any soldier. The humans had split into teams, each with a specific job. Dr. Rodriguez led the medical team, treating wounds and creating chemical weapons. Paul Williams commanded the technical team, working with alien devices and building traps. Amanda Clark ran intelligence, using the children to gather information about enemy movements, but it was Jake Morrison who had become the weapon that terrified the aliens most. He had studied every dead hunter, learned their weaknesses, and taught himself to exploit them. He knew exactly where to strike to penetrate their armor. He knew how to move so their advanced sensors couldn't track him. He knew how to kill them quickly and silently. The fourth alien hunter died at dawn on the third day. Jake Morrison had stalked him for hours, moving through the treetops like a ghost. When the hunter stopped to rest, Jake dropped from above, driving his improvised spear through the gap in the alien's neck armor. The creature died without making a sound. That's 4 down, Jake reported to the others. How many are left? Danny. Morrison had been listening to the alien communications all night. I think there are only 2 more, Dad, but they're calling for help. They keep saying words that sound like emergency and backup. Paul Williams looked up from the alien device. He was modifying. I can jam their signals for a while, but not forever. If they get a message through to their ship, we'll have bigger problems. Dr. Rodriguez had been working with the poisonous plants she had discovered. I've made enough of the gray flower extract to affect a dozen aliens. If they send reinforcements, we'll be ready. Amanda Clark had organized the children into a communication network that covered miles of forest. The kids say there are 2 hunters near the North Stream, and they're acting scared. They keep looking over their shoulders. Jake Morrison smiled grimly. Good. Scared hunters make mistakes. The transformation was complete. The humans were no longer prey. They had become predators, and the forest moon had become their hunting ground. Every tree could hide a sniper. Every clearing could conceal a trap. Every shadow could hide death. The 5th alien hunter died that afternoon. Paul Williams had rigged an alien energy weapon to explode when activated. The hunter found the weapon lying beside a fake campsite and tried to use it. The explosion could be heard for miles. The last hunter lasted until sunset. Amanda Clark's children had been tracking him all day, reporting his position every few minutes. When he finally stopped to rest, he found himself surrounded by 23 humans who had learned to be killers. Please, the alien said in broken English, I surrender. I do not wish to fight anymore. Jake Morrison looked at the creature that had come here to hunt his family for sport. You should have thought of that before you started this hunt. The alien died like the others, quickly, quietly, without mercy, that night. The humans gathered around their fire to plan their next move. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The alien ship was still in orbit above them, and there would be more hunters coming. We need to get off this moon, Paul Williams said. I think I can modify their technology to send a signal to Earth. Dr. Rodriguez was already preparing for the next phase. We need to document everything. How they fight, how they die, how to beat them. Other humans will need to know. Amanda Clark was teaching the children to be teachers themselves. When we get home, we'll need to train others. This won't be the last time aliens try to hunt humans. Jake Morrison looked at his son, who was quietly working on an alien communication device. Danny had learned to decode their language in just 3 days. His wife Lisa was helping Dr. Rodriguez catalog alien weaknesses. Even the youngest children were contributing to their survival. We're not the same people who were captured 4 days ago, he said quietly. We've learned what humans can do when we have to. Up in orbit, Commander Vexthara stared at the silent forest moon below. All 6 of his hunters were dead. The prey had become predators, the hunt had become a war, and the humans had won, but they had done more than win. They had learned. And that terrified him more than any weapon. The silence from the forest moon below made Commander Vexthara's scales crawl with unease. For 6 hours, there had been no communication from any of his hunting parties. The tracking devices showed no movement. The emergency beacons remained. Silent, 24 primitive mammals had somehow defeated 6 of his finest warriors. "Send down a reconnaissance team," he ordered Lieutenant Krex. "I want to know what happened to my hunters." "Sir?" Krex hesitated, his forked tongue tasting the air nervously. "Perhaps we should simply destroy the moon from orbit. These humans are proving more dangerous than anticipated." Vexthara's yellow eyes blazed with fury. "I will not be defeated by prey animals. Send down 12 hunters. Full armor, heavy weapons. Kill every human on that moon." But Krex's suggestion was starting to make sense, even to the proud commander. The humans had done something no other species had managed in 1,000 years of Zephyrian hunting expeditions. They had fought back, successfully. On the forest moon below, the humans were busy preparing for the next wave of attackers. They had learned that survival was not enough. They needed to document everything they had discovered about their enemy. If other humans were going to face these aliens, they would need every advantage possible. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had filled 3 notebooks with detailed observations about Zephyrian biology. She had dissected the dead hunters, studied their organs, tested their blood, and mapped their nervous systems. What she found was both encouraging and terrifying. "They're incredibly strong," she explained to the group as they gathered around. "Their hidden campfire. Their muscles are 3 times denser than human muscles. Their bones are like steel cables. Their scales can stop bullets." Paul Williams looked up from the alien weapons he was cleaning. "So how do we kill them?" "Because they have weaknesses too," Elena continued. "Their joints have no armor. Their eyes are sensitive to bright light. And most importantly, they're not used to fighting enemies who fight back intelligently." Jake Morrison was studying maps he had drawn of the forest. "What else did you find?" Elena's voice grew serious. "They're not just hunters, Jake. They're scientists." Each hunter had detailed recording equipment. "They were studying us while they hunted us. Learning how humans fight, how we think, how we work together." The implications hit everyone at once. This wasn't just entertainment for the aliens, it was research. They were learning how to fight humans more effectively, Amanda Clark had been. Working with the children to decode more of the alien language. "Danny figured out some of their words," she reported. "They keep talking about something called the collection, and they mention other species by name." 12-year-old Danny Morrison looked up from the alien communication device he had been studying. "Dad, I think they've done this before, lots of times. They have names for different kinds of people from different worlds." Paul Williams had made his own disturbing discovery while examining alien technology. "These weapons aren't just for hunting," he said grimly. "Look at these settings. They have modes for capture, wound, kill, and something called study." Jake Morrison felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "Study mode? It shoots something that paralyzes the target but keeps them alive and conscious," Paul explained. "They can study how different species react to pain and fear." The horrible truth was becoming clear. The Zephyrians weren't just hunters looking for sport. They were researchers conducting experiments on intelligent life forms. Every species they hunted provided data for fighting future encounters. Dr. Rodriguez pulled out another notebook filled with her observations. "I found something else in their equipment. Medical scanners that analyze brain patterns. They're studying how different species think, how they make decisions under stress." Amanda Clark's face had gone pale. "They're learning how to predict what we'll do before we do it." "But they're making a mistake," Jake said quietly. "They're studying individual humans, not human cooperation. They don't understand what happens when we work together." The alien ship above had begun deploying its reinforcements. 12 fresh hunters descended toward the forest moon in armored transport pods. These weren't the overconfident predators who had come before. These were soldiers prepared for war, but the humans had spent a week learning to be warriors themselves. They had turned the forest into a fortress with hidden supply caches, secret communication networks, and trap systems that covered miles of territory. Paul Williams had achieved something the aliens thought impossible. He had reverse-engineered Their technology well enough to build new devices. I can't make their energy weapons, he explained, but I can make their electronics work for us. He showed them a device that looked like a metal spider. This is a spy drone. It can follow the aliens and report back on their movements. And this, he held up something that looked like a metal disc. This can jam their communications from up to 5 miles away. Dr. Rodriguez had weaponized her medical knowledge in ways that would have seemed impossible a week ago. I've created gas grenades using plant extracts, she said. The purple flower poison that weakens them, mixed with spores that attack their respiratory systems. Amanda Clark had turned their children into the most effective intelligence network on the moon. The kids can move through the forest without being detected by alien sensors, she reported. They've mapped every hunter position and identified the best attack routes. But perhaps the most important discovery came from an unexpected source. 8-year-old Tim Parker had been playing with one of the alien communication devices when he accidentally activated a recording function. What they heard made everyone freeze with horror and anger. The voice of Commander Vexthara filled the clearing, speaking in accented English. The human specimens are providing excellent data on pack behavior under extreme stress. Their emotional responses to threats against their offspring are particularly useful for psychological warfare applications. Another voice, Lieutenant Krex? Responded. The children's rapid adaptation to alien technology is noteworthy. Human learning capacity appears to exceed previous estimates. Document everything, Vexthara commanded. The Empire will want complete behavioral profiles for future human encounters. These creatures will make excellent slave workers once we understand how to control them. The recording continued for several minutes, detailing plans to capture and enslave human colonies throughout the galaxy. The aliens had been studying not just how to hunt humans, but how to break human spirits and turn them into obedient workers. Jake Morrison felt a rage unlike anything he had ever experienced. These creatures had killed his friends, terrorized his family, and now he learned they were planning to enslave his entire species, but mixed with the anger was something else: determination. They think they're studying us, he said quietly. But we're studying them too, and we're learning faster. The humans had documented everything about their enemies. How they moved, how they fought, how they communicated, how they died. They had recorded alien language patterns, technology specifications, and tactical weaknesses. Most importantly, they had proven that humans could adapt and overcome any threat when they worked together. Dr. Rodriguez had filled notebook after notebook with medical data about alien biology. When we get home, human doctors will know exactly how to hurt these creatures. We'll know which diseases affect them, which poisons work, which injuries are fatal. Paul Williams had created detailed technical manuals for alien technology. Human engineers will be able to build weapons specifically designed to fight these aliens. We'll know how their shields work, how their sensors operate, how their ships function. Amanda Clark had documented alien psychology and behavior patterns. Human strategists will know how they think, how they make decisions, how they react under pressure. We'll be able to predict their moves and counter their tactics. The 12 new hunters landed in the forest just as the sun was setting. They were better armed and better prepared than the first group, but they made the same fatal mistake their predecessors had made. They underestimated their prey. The humans were no longer the same frightened colonists who had been captured a week ago. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that could learn from any encounter, adapt to any threat, and turn any disadvantage into a weapon. Jake Morrison positioned his people around the landing site like pieces on a chessboard. Each person knew their role. Each team had their objectives. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the future of humanity. Remember, he told them over their captured communication network, we're not just trying to escape. We're gathering intelligence that could save billions of human lives. Every alien we capture, every device we steal, every secret we learn makes humanity stronger. The hunt was about to begin again, but this time the humans would be doing the hunting. and they would be hunting for information that could change the course of galactic history. The battle that decided the fate of humanity began at midnight on the seventh day. 12 Zephyrian hunters moved through the forest like ghosts, their advanced armor making them nearly invisible to normal eyes. But human eyes were no longer normal. A week of survival had sharpened every sense, and the colonists had learned to see in ways their enemies couldn't imagine. Jake Morrison watched the alien forces through captured surveillance equipment that Paul Williams had modified. The enemy was moving in 3 groups of 4, using military formations that should have been perfect for hunting scattered prey. But the humans were no longer scattered, and they were no longer prey. Team Alpha, they're moving toward your position, Jake whispered into his communication device. Team Beta, circle around from the south. Team Gamma, prepare the surprise we discussed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez crouched in the medical station they had built in a hidden cave. Her notebooks were filled with everything they had learned about alien biology, but tonight she was focused on one specific discovery. The Zephyrians had a weakness they didn't even know about. The frequency is ready, she reported to Jake. If Paul's device works, it should disrupt their nervous systems long enough for us to act. Paul Williams was hidden high in a tree, surrounded by alien technology he had turned into human weapons. Over the past week he had become an expert in Zephyrian engineering. Tonight he would use that knowledge to save his species. Signal jamming is active, he reported. They can't call their ship for help. And Jake, I've got something special ready for when they reach the clearing. Amanda Clark was coordinating the children from a secure bunker made of fallen logs and earth. The kids had become the most effective part of their operation, able to move unseen and report enemy positions with deadly accuracy. Danny says the first group is 50 meters from the trap, she whispered. Tim reports the second group is moving faster than expected. Lisa sees the third group stopping to examine Hunter Klex's body. The alien body was bait. Jake Morrison had positioned it carefully, making it look like the hunter had died from human weapons. But Dr. Rodriguez had done something special to the corpse. She had filled it with a chemical mixture that would explode when the aliens tried. To examine it, the first explosion lit up the forest like daylight. 3 Zephyrian hunters were caught in the blast, their armor cracked and their weapons scattered. But the humans had learned that wounded aliens were more dangerous than dead ones. Jake Morrison and his team moved in quickly to finish what the trap had started. The aliens had come prepared for war, but they were fighting an enemy they still didn't understand. Every human position had multiple escape routes. Every attack was coordinated with 3 backup plans. Every weapon had been tested and improved based on a week of combat experience. Contact! Paul Williams shouted as energy beams lit up the trees around him, but he wasn't running. Instead, he activated the device Dr. Rodriguez had designed. A high-pitched sound filled the forest, a frequency that human ears couldn't detect but that made the aliens stagger and clutch their heads in pain, while the hunters were disoriented. Amanda Clark's children struck from positions the aliens had never considered. 8-year-old Tim Parker dropped a net made from alien rope, tangling 2 hunters long enough for the adults to reach them. 12-year-old Danny Morrison used his knowledge of alien language to shout false commands that confused the enemy formation. Dr. Rodriguez emerged from her hiding place carrying weapons that looked like medical equipment but had been turned into instruments of war. She had learned that certain chemicals could penetrate alien armor through the breathing slits in their helmets. Her syringes were loaded with plant extracts that would paralyze a Zephyrian in seconds. Their nervous systems are more complex than ours, she explained as she injected a captured hunter. But that complexity is also a weakness. This mixture targets their nerve clusters. They'll be unconscious for hours. The battle lasted 3 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The humans had every advantage except raw strength and advanced technology. But they had something more important. They had learned to fight as one organism. With 24 parts, when dawn broke over the forest moon, 12 more Zephyrian hunters lay dead or captured. The humans had not lost a single person. More importantly, They had captured enough alien equipment to change the balance of power in the galaxy. Paul Williams had spent the night downloading data from alien computers. "I've got their ship blueprints," he reported excitedly. "Navigation charts showing every Zephyrian world. Communication codes for their entire fleet. This is intelligence that could end their empire." Dr. Rodriguez had collected biological samples. That would revolutionize human understanding of alien life. "I know how to make diseases that only affect them," she said. "I know which Earth bacteria would be fatal to their species. I know how to create medical weapons that could protect human colonies." Amanda Clark had recorded hours of alien communications. "The children have learned enough of their language to translate most of their messages. We know their military structure, their supply lines, their political weaknesses, but the most important discovery came from the captured aliens themselves. Under questioning, they revealed the true scope of the Zephyrian Empire's plans for humanity. Your species was chosen for large-scale enslavement," one injured hunter admitted. "Humans learn quickly and work well in groups. Perfect for mining, operations, and construction projects. The Empire planned to capture millions of your people." Jake Morrison felt a cold fury as he listened to the alien's words. "How many species have you enslaved?" 47 species across 17 star systems," the hunter replied. "But none have ever fought back like your people. None have ever learned so quickly how to kill us." The revelation changed everything. This wasn't just about the survival of 24 colonists. This was about the survival of human civilization. The aliens had been planning to turn humanity into a slave species, but they had made one critical error. They had given humans advance warning and training. Paul Williams had found something even more valuable in the alien computers. "I've got the location of Earth in their navigation system," he said. "But more importantly, I've got the locations of all their slave worlds. Billions of intelligent beings are trapped in Zephyrian labor camps." Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her medical notes. "We're not just going home to warn Earth, we're going home to start a liberation war." The humans began preparing for the next phase of their mission. They couldn't stay on the forest moon forever, and they knew more aliens would come eventually. But they had turned their prison into a training ground and their captors into teachers. Jake Morrison gathered the group for one final planning session. "We've learned everything we can hear. Now we need to get this information to Earth before the Zephyrians realize what we know." Paul Williams had been working on that problem for days. "I can modify their shuttle to carry all of us. The navigation system will take us straight to Earth. We'll arrive months before they expect us to escape." Amanda Clark had been preparing the children for what came next. "When we get home, we'll need to teach others everything we've learned. Every human colony will need to know how to fight these aliens." Dr. Rodriguez packed her notebooks carefully. "The medical information alone will save millions of lives. But we need to work fast. The aliens will adapt once they realize we've figured out their weaknesses." The escape shuttle lifted off from the forest moon at sunset on the 8th day. In the cargo hold, they carried captured alien technology, detailed intelligence reports, and biological samples that would change human civilization forever. Commander Vexthara watched the shuttle depart with a mixture of rage and fear. 24 primitive mammals had destroyed his hunting expedition, captured his technology, and learned his species' most guarded secrets. But worse than that, they were going home to share what they had learned. "Sir," Lieutenant Kreck said quietly, "perhaps we should contact the Empire. Warn them that the humans are more dangerous than we thought." Vexthara's claws scraped against his command chair. "And tell them that I was defeated by prey animals, that I lost 18 hunters to creatures. That should have died in the first hour." But as he watched the shuttle disappear into space, he knew the truth. The humans had done more than escape. They had turned the hunters into the hunted. They had transformed from victims into teachers, carrying knowledge that would spread throughout human space like wildfire. 6 months later, when the first Zephyrian fleet arrived at Earth expecting to find an easy conquest, they instead found humanity ready for war. Every human colony had been warned. Every human ship carried weapons designed to penetrate alien armor. Every human soldier knew exactly how to kill a Zephyrion hunter. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years lasted exactly 3 more years after humanity joined the fight. The species that had thought themselves the ultimate predators learned too late that some prey evolves into something far more dangerous. The galaxy's newest apex predators had a simple message for any species that thought humans looked like easy victims. The hunt is over, the war has begun, and humanity never forgets how to win.